Yo, failing justice, a movement on the rise. Former law enforcers now breaking ties. Unique perspectives where commitment lies. Upholding justice against the lows and highs. From the beat to the streets, we pave the way. Challenging the system every single day. No acceptance of the status quo, we say. This is failing justice. Let's slay.
Today's episode of the Failing Justice podcast is brought to you by Carlson Solutions, a private investigation firm located in Dallas-Fort Worth and East Texas. We specialize in a wide range of investigations, including background checks, surveillance, defense case investigations, and more. For professional, discreet services you can trust, visit us at carlsonsolutions.net.
One man all of America was rooting for during the hurricane. He's known as Lieutenant Dan. Yes, after the character in Forrest Gump. He lives on a boat in Tampa, and video of him peeking out from his vessel went viral.
You've seen him making waves on TikTok and heard his story on the news. But there's more to Lieutenant Dan than what you've seen so far. From viral videos to a voice of inspiration, Lieutenant Dan isn't just a TikTok sensation. He's a force for connection, growth, and making a real difference. In an exclusive interview, Lieutenant Dan opens up like never before, sharing the untold stories behind the fame and what drives him to inspire millions. Don't miss this powerful conversation on the Failing Justice podcast, available Friday, December 6th, on all major platforms and YouTube.
I want to introduce to you, goes by the name of Joe. His real name is Joseph, but he goes by Joe. Some of you may know him as Lieutenant Dan. He kind of became famous, I guess you would say, during the last hurricane. I believe it was Hurricane Milton that hit Tampa, Florida. And I'm glad to have Joe on. I want to introduce you, Joe, if you don't mind. Say hi to the audience, man.
Hello, how are you?
And if you don't mind, just kind of introduce yourself. You got a couple different names, what you like to be called, what your nicknames are, and where you're from, all that good stuff.
As you know, some of you know, my name's Joe Malinowski. You may know me as Lieutenant Dan from TikTok. Born and raised in Perth Amboy, New Jersey, Woodbridge, New Jersey. They're side by side. And moved to Florida 5 years ago after God told me to come down here and buy a boat.
All right. So you are not from Florida. You are from Jersey. When did you come to Florida?
I've been down here about 5 years or so. Being on the street, you lose track of time. So you're the days. It's just like, okay, it's another day. That's it. I don't.
Did you like the transition? How do you feel about Florida versus Jersey? I mean, I know it's two totally different climates. So.
Oh, I love Florida. When I came down here, my story goes, I moved from Jersey to North Carolina. Lived in North Carolina for a couple of years. Then I got separated from my family, went out on my own, and was living with my mom for a couple of weeks, and went to Colorado. While I was in Colorado, went through some things, and that's when God told me Tampa, Florida, and get a boat. So I left Colorado. I had to go back to North Carolina, left there, and came to Florida 5 years ago. Been here in Fort Lauderdale, where I'm at right now, for most of that time. And then I finally, a year ago, went out to Tampa to get the boat. And that's when God started the whole thing. I was there for 9 months before the storm started, before the water broke.
So I remember, man, I started seeing you like everywhere on TikTok and like the Weather Channel and people were coming up to you because you were saying, hey, I'm going to ride this storm out, because you had already previously, I guess, rode one out. And so you're like, I'm going to ride this one out too. And it just got crazy, man. Like, you didn't ask for any of it. People just kind of started. I guess you mentioned when we were off camera a minute ago, Tampa Terrence. I guess he's a guy on TikTok that you guys were friends at one time, I guess. And how do you feel about all that, man? Like how like things blowing up the way it did? I mean, you mentioned God a couple times, so I'm sure you're a believer that everything's happens for a reason. And what's your mindset on all that?
Everything happens for a reason. It happened just as it was supposed to. Um, there, I don't believe in coincidence. Everything's a synchronicity. Everything happens for a reason. And I believe that. Terrence gave me the opportunity to make me as big as I am and as popular as I am because God wants me to get the word out. And the things that he's revealed to me in just the last 2 days, couple of days, it's mind blowing. And it's prophecy. It's all what I've been living through for the last 10 years has been every chapter of the Bible. I mean, really, everything from Adam and Eve to Job to being Jesus nailed on the cross in the criminal justice system. Being convicted for crimes that I did not commit. I am not guilty of their crimes. If I told you the whole story and you had the video proof because there's cameras everywhere, but there's no video, of course, because it never is when you're innocent. There's only video when you're guilty. Nobody could ever provide proof other than their word. But on my last conviction, where I allegedly punched a police officer in the nose, and everybody, including the bartender of the bar that I had just walked into, lied. And the bar manager lied and the cop lied, all on the stand after swearing to God to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And then I got convicted and was sentenced to prison for 5.5 months. While I was away for those 5.5 months, the bartender had a massive heart attack in his sleep and died. That's not my fault. I didn't do it. Karma, I say. The arresting officer, Joseph Alou is his name, from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department. I ran into him downtown one day as I was walking right after I'd been released from prison. And I confronted him and I said, Joe, I said, you know damn well I didn't lay a hand on you. You know what you did to me. And he says, but I'm going to let karma handle it. And you just do your thing. And I walked away from him. And about 2 weeks later, I had to go up to this Palm Beach County Sheriff's substation over in Lake Worth. And I walked in, and there's Joseph Alou at the desk behind the glass wearing a Hawaiian shirt and khakis. Hello, can I help you? No gun, no nothing. I don't know what happened, why he was taken off street duty wearing khaki uniform and 45 strapped to his side and the vest that says sheriff across the front like a big badass. Now he's sitting behind a desk helping little old ladies as they come in and ask for get their cat out of the tree. So
Wow. And that's one of the reasons, I mean, the biggest reason that I kind of wanted to have you on the show was because, you know, you kind of have a voice and right now you have a platform and I knew, and of course, obviously we all know you've probably figured this out fairly quickly in the last couple of months is that the internet's crazy, man. People, you never, people are going to say the craziest things. They're going to come up with their own conclusions about situations that they have zero knowledge of. And so the reason why I wanted to have you on was because I knew you had been in the criminal justice system and I kind of wanted to get your perspective on things. But real quick, going back to kind of what I just mentioned, the internet being crazy and you know, people saying things. How's that experience been, man? Because I've been following you pretty hardcore, and dude, I just see you got so many fake pages created out there that's not real, that's not you, and people are just coming up with the craziest stuff. And I mean, what is your? How do you feel about that? Like, I mean, I know this is kind of a newer world for you. How have you adapted to that?
Okay. Let give you a little background. In 2000, I was working in IT, making $120,000 a year, being a senior networking analyst for Bristol Myers Squibb. At the same time, I was running an ISP out of my basement called Internet Web Presence Providers, which I had T1 fiber optic lines ran to the house with equipment downstairs that converted fiber optics to copper. I know the internet. It's the people that are new.
I
The
got you.
The internet is the same. I started working on the internet 25 years ago, back when Army first released it. But it's
Well,
not
that's what I mean when I say internet. I mean people. But
I
that's
just
cool to know. I didn't know that. I didn't know that about you. That's an
Mm.
interesting fact.
know that about me. People don't know that up until I was diagnosed with cancer in 2000 on Monday and multiple sclerosis on Thursday, told I had 3 lesions on my brain and 2 on my spine. I was out on disability, but at the time I was making $120,000 a year doing computer networking for companies like Bristol Myers Squibb, Prudential Insurance, Janssen Pharmaceutica, stuff like that. They think I'm a criminal. I did that until 2000. From 2000 to 2014, I sat on my couch in my living room taking chemotherapy and all the other drugs that the doctors gave me. When I had pain, they put me on pain pills. At the end, I was taking 3 Oxycontin 80s and 4 Percocet 10s a day. And I got off of that
Golly.
with the use of marijuana. Smoking weed got me off of Oxycontin without any help from doctors or anybody like that. Now, I did it and I did it wrong. I started weaning myself off until I was taking 2 Oxycontin a day and 1 Percocet 10 a day. I thought I was good enough. So on April 16th, 2014, I threw half a bottle of Oxycontin and half a bottle of Percocet in the garbage. At the time, I didn't know that on the street, those pills are worth $80 each for the Oxy 80s and $10 a piece for the Percocet 10s. I didn't know that. I threw them out. I'm kicking myself in the ass today for that. But
That's awesome.
I get off. April 16th was my deadline. I threw them out and I felt fine. When I start feeling pain or feeling sick or whatever, I'd smoke some weed and I was fine. So the 16th, the 17th, the morning, afternoon of the 18th, I was fine. The night of the 18th, I'm sitting on my couch and I'm watching TV, and we had a little miniature pinscher named Bella, a little small dog. And she starts running around the table, and jumps up in my lap. I put her on the floor. I said, Bella, what are you doing? She run around the table, jump back up my lap. After the 5th time, I'm ready to bounce Bella off the wall. And then it hit me. She knows something. There's something wrong. So I turned on the couch a little bit, and I yelled up to my son, Christopher. I said, Chris, come down here. There's something wrong. And boom, I fell and I hit the floor. So I stood up, but I'm not in my living room. I'm in the pitch black. I can't see a damn thing. I felt like I was inside a warehouse with no doors or windows. There was no movement of air. Everything was just stagnant. No sound, no light, just black. And I'm looking around. I'm saying, where the hell are you? And what felt like forever, then I saw it, a little tiny white dot way out in the distance. Or it could have been right here, just a very small dot, or it could have been a big dot way out there. Anyway, I was going to start walking to it. And just as I was about to pick up my foot to start walking, I heard my son behind me and to the right screaming, Dad, wake up, wake up. And I said, I can't go yet. My son still needs me. I'll be back later. And I went to turn on my left foot, and bam, I'm on the floor of my living room with my son at my feet, his buddy Dominic on my left, and Andrew on my right. And these 3 19-year-old boys are crying like little girls. Joe, you were dead. You weren't breathing. I looked at Dominic. I said, how long? He said, 10 minutes. We couldn't get you up. Andrew goes, and you were purple. I said, and you're black. And my son said to me, you want me to call Mom? You want me to call 911? I said, call the Army and the Air Force, because they just beat me up, and I don't know where the hell I was. Now, 10 years later, becoming spiritual like I have, and reading books like the Holy Scripture from the Jehovah's Witness, or New Testament from Christianity or whatever, or the Torah, the Old Testament, and from the Jewish or the Muslim, I can't remember that one. They all say the same stories. They all say the same stories. They all have Joseph in the beginning, Adam and Eve, more or less, you know. I mean, so really religion goes out the window. But one thing that I found in this book is that there's a place called, I'm going to read it to you because I found it very interesting.
So that's the Bible?
Yeah, it's the Jehovah's Witness Bible, if I call it. But it really is, it's the same Bible. It's the only thing is that I like this one because it fits in my hand well, and I can read it well. All right. Okay. In here in the back, I never heard of this. It's the only place I ever found this. But there's a place called Tartarus, Tartarus. In the Christian Greek scriptures, a prison-like abased condition into which the disobedient angels of Noah's day were cast. At 2 Peter 2:4, the use of the verb tataru, to cast into Tartarus, does not signify that the angels who sinned were cast into this pagan mythology Tartarus, that is an underground prison and place of darkness for the lesser gods. Rather, it indicates that they were abased from God, from their heavenly place and privilege, and were delivered over to the condition of deepest mental darkness respecting God's bright purposes. Darkness also marks their own eventuality, which in the scripture is shown as everlasting destruction along with their ruler, Satan, the devil. Therefore, Tartarus denotes the lowest condition of abasement for those rebellious angels. It is not the same as the abyss spoken of in Revelations 20:1-3. So, reading that description of that place called Tartarus, that's where I was. And what I've been through during this time has been really, really biblical.
So yeah, Tartarus is not necessarily like hell.
No, it's not.
I guess it's or not where the humans go when they die. It's more of, I guess, where like the rebellious angels.
It's what you would call hell, and hell is what they say by the abasement of God, which means that God is love and light. So the opposite of love and light is darkness and hate. So where I was at the time, I was in complete darkness. But I believe that by me showing God at the time by saying I wanted to go back for my son, not for myself. And I told him point blank, I'll be back later. And I don't know why I said those words that came out of my mouth, but I know I said those in that place. I can't go yet. My son still needs me. I'll be back later. And I went to turn around on my left foot, and I'm a left leg amputee. I don't have a left foot. I had one in this place. And I went to turn around, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm on the floor of my living room. So
you think that was your turning point for, I guess, your awakening, like into spirituality and knowing God?
Yeah, I do.
That's a hell of a story. And you mentioned your son. I mean, I got two boys. They're pretty young. They're 8 and or 9, about to be 9. So 8 and 10 right now. And I mean, I know that's pretty awesome. That you said you mentioned for your son and not yourself. And I can respect that greatly. I didn't know. You see so much stuff on the internet, and that's cool. I'm glad I got you on the podcast because I was curious how many kids you had. Everybody said so many different things, and I'm like, Dan will tell the truth, Joe will tell the truth. So
I was married for 25 years to the same woman. I was a faithful husband and father. I stayed from the 2000 to 2014. I lived on the couch. Okay. Because when I first was told I had cancer, stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, 4S, throughout the whole body and my spleen on Monday. And on Thursday, the neurologist telling me I had multiple sclerosis. I know those are 2 deadly diseases. So at the time, I kissed my ass goodbye and waited to die. And I distanced myself from the family. I wouldn't do things with them. I mean, hell, that's why my family hates me today, because my family don't know me. My daughter makes stories up. She says that she's the 1% of the family that followed me. My daughter didn't do shit for me when I was gone. And I can understand it. I didn't do nothing for her. I didn't buy her cars. I didn't take care of her. I didn't buy her computers and cell phones. And for my son, I wasn't the one there at award ceremonies every month, being the one when he was getting his award for perfect attendance. I'd be in the audience saying, "Yeah, buddy, that's my boy." No, they don't remember that kind of shit. They just
So
remembered the
so
one time that when Dad decided to do for Dad what Dad wanted to do to make Dad happy for once, it cost the family.
would you
When
say that you're because I can say like for me, I'm not the same person I was even just 4 years ago, Joe. When I left law enforcement, I I viewed myself kind of as a terrible human being for so long because I was indoctrinated into
I
a
understand
certain culture. So I guess my question is like, people change. I mean, we're people are
people can change, but you know
yeah,
what this, but you know what they can't. That's why the Bible says you could only serve two masters. You can serve either God or mammon, and mammon is money. And if you put money before anything, you're putting money before God because God is everything.
yeah.
All
No,
right.
I
So
agree
if
with that.
and now I apologize. Now I respect you. I respect you, Justin, for coming and doing what you did. I mean, that took a lot to turn your back on what you believed, even when you woke up, because you were indoctrinated into that system. Now I was indoctrinated into the money system, doing a computer work. Like I said, they paid. I believe in my heart, I believe I made myself sick. I believe I gave myself cancer and I gave myself multiple sclerosis. And why I say that is because I used to dread going to work every morning. I never wanted to leave my house. I had a beautiful house on a lake. I wanted to enjoy what I had, but I couldn't enjoy it because I had to go to work to make the money to pay for it.
Yeah,
So
man, that's a
you,
lot. You said 120,000 in year 2000. That's a lot of money back then, man.
I was making $90 an hour, corp to
Wow.
corp. That's cash money. That's cash. That's drug dealer money. And I wasn't paying a dollar in taxes. My money was all cash money. My corporation, Mainline Technologies Incorporated, they would get paid from the other corporation, and then my company would pay all my bills, pre-tax income, pay my electric, water, garbage, sewer, my car payment, my car insurance, my license fees, whatever I needed. I got paid from the company. That's why you have to start an LLC today. If you start an LLC and you put pre-tax money into the LLC, you could pay your bills from the LLC and pay yourself as an employee, give yourself a stipend every week that's non-taxable. I even got earned income credit of $8,000 a year when I filed my income tax, making 120 grand a year, having two kids and a mortgage. I
Wow.
would get at least $8,000 back with the earned income credit back then. Now, in the last 10 years, I gave up all of that. And in June of this year, Social Security cut me off from Social Security, said I'm no longer disabled after 22 years of being on disability. They tell me I'm no longer disabled now, and I I missed my appeal process. So I have no income now. So these people talking about me on TikTok saying that I'm scamming people, I tell you point blank, don't give me your freaking money. I don't want it. I don't want to be thought of like that. So to cut that right in the butt, don't give me any money. God will provide. He does. He has been for years. Everything I have is from God. That's why I don't worry about anything. I've
Yeah,
been
I saw a post you made, I think, regarding that, saying, you didn't want people's money, and I respect that, man. I mean, because you probably have a lot of people that want to donate, and
I
I
get
mean
people
that.
that me, but you know what? It's different. What I tell people to do is I'll go live. If you want to gift me, if you want to send me a donation, gift it to me. You
Mhm.
can do that. That way, it's right there on the spot. You gift it to me. It goes in the TikTok. They take half of it, but then I get the other half. But that way, I don't have to worry about people saying that I'm trying to scam and all kinds of bullshit like that. Because you know what? It ain't about that for me. I didn't want all this. God did this. It was two hurricanes. It was Helene, the first one, where the tide came in, and that was the one where everybody, what are you going to do when the water comes in? I'm in a boat, people. Boats float. It don't matter where the ground is underneath me as long as the water's underneath me too.
Mhm.
So Milton, with Helena, we had 10 feet of water. When I slept from 12:30 that night till 5:30 in the morning, and when I woke up, I stuck my head out the hatch, and people are walking around on Bayshore Avenue in Tampa in the water, and I'm bone dry. Totally safe, not a scratch, not a bump. My boat was safely out in the water right where I predicted it would be with no problems. And then Milton came along, and the mayor came down and made her broadcast statement that if you're in zones A or B and you stay behind, you're going to die. And here I am in my little boat, and she tells everybody that they got me to go to a shelter. I wasn't going to no shelter. Never planned on going to a shelter. I told the cop I was going to a shelter because the cop started strong-arming me and pressuring me, saying that they were going to Baker Act me if I wanted to stay on my boat. They were going to Baker Act me to get me out of there. So I told them, listen, I got 400 followers on TikTok. I'll put an SOS out there. Somebody will give me a place to stay or let me stay in their garage or something during the storm. And the cops believed me, and he accepted that. And he said, you want any help tying your boat up? I said, yeah, sure. He positioned my boat in such a way that if with Milton, the tide came in like they anticipated, and it would have been like Helena was, my boat would have sank. It would have kept my boat down while the tide came up over my boat the way he tied it down. Thank God for the knowledge that he's given me when I decided not to go and never did decide to go anywhere. And I adjusted everything and made it safer for my boat. I did wind up losing the anchor that he cost me an anchor, but that's fine. Anyway, and I'm sorry about rambling.
No, listen, I want to ask, there's so many questions I want to ask you, but on that particular topic, I don't know if you want to speak on it. You don't have to. I mean, just for my audience, there's some people that may not know who you are, so, and then they may look you up and have questions. But around that time, we had mentioned Tampa Terrence. Like, you want to speak, like, because I'm curious, just for me, now that I'm talking to you directly, like, what happened between you two? Because I mean, there was like a big thing on the internet.
Yeah.
And then you were with this guy named, I don't know what his real name is, but his
Check.
Check. Okay. Like, what?
Right.
Lay all that out for me.
Okay. I'm gonna lay out from pre-storm to hurricanes and then Check, because Check was at the end. All right. Now, some kids had stolen my kayak over on Davis Island, so I had no way to go from my boat, my sailboat, to get to land other than walking through the water. So what I would do is when I had to go grocery shopping, I would just take my sailboat up where I wound up, because Publix was right across the street. I tied my boat up, walk across the street to Publix, get my groceries, go back, and then go back to Seaplane Basin where I used to keep my boat. So I got up there, I got groceries, and my motor wouldn't stay running. It kept stalling. And I wound up getting stuck in the middle of the canal, the channel right there. And I threw my anchors out, but my anchor wasn't grabbing. And I wound up drifting right towards the bridge. And right at the bridge, I got my anchor to grab, but I was stuck right there. And just at that time, Terrence was walking over the bridge. So I yelled to him and I asked him if he could do me a favor and take a line over to the thing and tie my boat up so I didn't drag any further. So he said, sure. So he did that and he left. And the next day was the storm, or no, 2 days later was the storm. So the following day, I wound up getting my boat back onto the other side of the channel. And he showed up and showed me the skit from Forrest Gump with Lieutenant Dan, where he's screaming at the storm saying, you can't get me, you can't, whatever the hell he said. I don't remember the words. But he says, can you do that? And I looked at him, I said, yeah, but it's sunny out. So what am I yelling about? Okay, I mean, it's beautiful out right now. So that's when he did the thing, and I just said, F the police. And that's where it started. Then when the storm came, he just started coming around making videos, because I believe he's a videographer in Tampa University. He's going to do something in school, because I saw his video. I don't know Terrence from Adam. I don't know Terrence at all. I know nothing about the kid. And the only time I ever talked to him was when he was showing up to make videos. He never talked to me about any of it. I didn't know about the GoFundMe page. I didn't know about any of it until after the fact. That's why my name was nowhere on the GoFundMe other than in the description. I wasn't listed as the beneficiary. I wasn't listed as the creator. There was some guy, William Shadrick was the beneficiary. I still don't even know who that guy is. But Terrence set up all that stuff for me and the GoFundMe, and people start. I mean, it was at 20,000 when Terrence told me it was at 20,000, and that was the first time I heard about the GoFundMe. It was already at 20,000. I knew nothing about it. Then the next thing I know, Aiden Ross is making an offer of a boat and a $50,000 deal. I never even heard of this guy. He's making me a job offer. Wait a minute. I'm not born yesterday, and I'm not some drunk off the street. You're not going to give somebody a $100,000 boat and just come up with that number, 100,000. You got to spend $100,000 on a boat, and we're going to give you a $50,000 a month kick deal. And you know, I'm going along with it, but I'm saying to myself, "Who the fuck are you? Excuse me, but who are you kidding?
Yeah.
Who are you kidding? You know, that's what this whole internet is so fake. All you people are fake. You all worry about ratings and counts and clicks and likes and all that bullshit. You know what? Come out here and meet somebody. Just like right now, this TikTok says that I had 682,000 followers. And today I'm down to 665,000 followers. So I went down 20-some thousand followers in 2 weeks. I have not yet myself personally unfollowed anybody on TikTok. If I followed you once, I forgot about it. So who would purposely go and unfollow you? That's why I don't believe it's real. I don't believe there's 680,000 people following my shit when there's only freaking 6,000 views.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was the I guess there was like a fallout with you guys. I mean, was that I guess, is there still a fallout? Are you guys, I mean, what happened?
Okay. Me and Terrence had a fallout because he never wanted to give up the money. And then he knew I had an ID issue, so he kept using that against me. But then when I blew it up on the internet and word got out, pressure put on, pressure pipe, you know how that goes. He broke down, but what he did was he handed me $7,000 in cash on the boat, live streaming, broad daylight. I'm on my boat by myself, and you're handing me $7,000 in broad daylight on the internet, and I got one leg. That's not a very smart thing to do by any sensitive fucking thing. You just put a target on my back. Now, granted, I already have one, but mine's for the police. The red dot on my forehead, that's for a laser, and the scope on the back is for a rifle. So that's for Palm Beach County Sheriffs, for them to finish me off. Now, where was I going?
We were talking about your fallout with
Terrence.
Tampa. Yeah. After he gave you the money.
So he gave me $7,000 up front in broad daylight. That's when check came around. And to be 100% honest with you, at that point, I was more worried about my safety than the $7,000. So I turned the check, and he looked at me. He says, "Count it." I didn't even count it. So I counted it. It was 6,900. I said 6,900. Then I get shit because it's 6,900 and it was supposed to be 7,000, but now I'm crying over $100. No, I'm just making a statement. You said there's 7. I'm telling you there's 6,900. There's $100 difference. I don't know. I don't care about it, but I'm just telling you. Let's get the facts straight.
Yeah.
So he gives me the money, and then he drags his feet again on the rest of the money. And there was $40,000 in there. And if he would have just gave it to me, none of this shit that's happened to me since then would have happened. I could have got on with my life, got a boat, been down in the Keys, and been living a nice, quiet life. But no. So he gives me $7,000 first. Then a couple of weeks later, he PayPals me $3,000, $7,000, and $5,000, all in the same day within 2 hours, and he puts food as the description. Now, you're a former police officer. What are you going to make of that? 3 major transactions coming from one individual to another individual with the description of food.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't.
Okay, so what happened? What happened at that time? I had access to my PayPal account. I could have got money up at that point out of my PayPal account. He did that. PayPal froze my account now until I send them an ID. So now I can't get no money out of the PayPal account. So he still owed me $12,500. He comes, he gives me $10,000 in cash, And the 2,500 he was supposed to PayPal me that day, that was 2 weeks ago. He still hasn't done that. So I put that back out there that he hasn't paid the bill. He hasn't done what he was supposed to. He started the GoFundMe for me. People donated for me to be able to get a new boat. That was the whole purpose of that.
And this was all during the whole, pre-hurricane, post-hurricane.
Right. This was during and post.
Okay.
Okay. Pre-hurricane, I didn't know nothing. We didn't do anything. He made a couple of videos, but it wasn't until the night of the storm when they came out and I popped up out of the I knew where they were. When I heard them and I knew what they were doing, I knew he was videotaping me. So I was playing the goofball Lieutenant Dan. So when I popped up out of the top of my boat, I was facing the other way. And then I turned around and I acted like, the nutty professor, like, oh, what's going on, guys? But that was all a show for the people. Because I thought when he was doing that shit, I didn't know about TikTok. I didn't know about going viral. I didn't know about all of that shit because I ain't into it. All right. All I do on the internet is Facebook and freaking Spotify. I listen to my music and I post stupid shit on TikTok, on Facebook. But I didn't know about all the crap that was going on. That he would. Oh, there goes Bobby. Bobby. He ain't even looking. I'm sorry. It was a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in a year. So Terrence went away. Now, when Check was there that day, he gave me the 7,000, and I counted out 6,900. I turned the check and I said, "Here," and I put 6,900 in his hand. I said, "Now get out of here." He walked away, got in his car, drove to the store, bought a soda, put the money in his car, came back and walked back to me like he was drinking soda, like he went to the store for a soda. Meanwhile, the money's nowhere near me. And he's back in case somebody does come. He knew why I sent him away the way I did. So the minute Check did that, Check earned my respect and my trust. But as quickly as you earn my trust, you can lose my trust.
Yeah, what happened with you guys?
Check, again, I had no idea the monetary value of TikTok and becoming viral. Okay? And being as popular as I was, I had no idea the money that is involved. Just through TikTok. I mean, if you get 1 million views, that's $1,000. Now, I don't know about you, but $1,000 even to me today is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money.
That's a lot of fucking money. I mean, I was living on $2,000 a month for fucking 22 years. So $1,000 for a video that I made, that's great. Now, what Check was doing was he was taking me places, setting me up for things like the leg, right? He made an arrangement with the leg guy. There was never an intent for that company to make me a prosthetic leg. Never any intent of them to make me a prosthetic leg.
What do you mean? I thought somebody said it was going to be donated. Was that
there was a company in Orlando that was going to make the leg. It was me, Check, this guy Tank, and this other guy Shorty, a midget, a 300-pound, no, more like 600-pound white guy, a little midget, Check, and me. We all go to take me to a place to get fitted for a prosthetic, right? Why are we all going to this place? Who are these guys and why are they here? And then I see what the hell is happening once we get there and everybody's filming everything. And they got a videographer there ready to make a commercial for the leg place, prosthetic place, that they're making a leg for Lieutenant Dan, but they never did. Why did we have an appointment to come in for my initial consultation when you don't even make a cast mold of my leg? That's the first thing you do when you're making a prosthetic leg.
So you think, or it sounds to me also like all of these people were using you because you were kind of newly famous with the hurricane in your boat. You think they were using you for their own monetary value and their TikTok channels when you didn't fully realize that's what they were doing at first.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense.
And it's even to this day. It's to this day. And I'm allowing everything to happen because I'm allowing it to happen. But I'm aware of it. Now, Check blew his hand. When Check got me out of jail, to me, He was closer than any brother I've ever had, and I don't have any brothers. All right, when he got, and then after the fact, I found out that he didn't even get me out. He put up the $100 bond, and that girl Karma put it in her name. But
So
anyway,
let me go back. I don't mean to interrupt, but you mentioned going to jail. I wanted to talk about that because I'm sitting here thinking, an outsider looking in, and you tell me if I'm wrong or right. But I'm sitting here like, okay, this guy down on his luck, living in a boat, trying to make it, right? And survives 2 hurricanes. And then the police come by for whatever reason and arrest you for some piddly misdemeanor and they towed away your home essentially. And I mean, how, from an outsider looking in, especially previous law enforcement, I'm looking at that situation. I'm saying that's kind of fucked up. Like they're taking this man's home and they're putting him in the county jail or city jail, whatever it was, for some. And you can tell me what the charge was. I believe I forgot now, but it was some piddly misdemeanor, something that didn't matter at all.
Trespassing at the park.
Trespassing at the park.
Because 2 weeks before, they trespassed me from every park in Tampa. I am not allowed in any park in Tampa. Now, the reason for that was prior to me getting the boat, I used to sleep at the Ballast Point Park. I used to sleep there. That's where I slept. I'd go there at night, set my hammock up between 2 of the picnic tables underneath the awning in case it rained. I'd go to sleep, get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, pick up all my shit, roll up my hammock, put my sleeping bag away, and be gone before 5:30. And I did that religiously. That's where I lived, more or less. But I'd only go there from 10 o'clock at night till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when nobody else was there. And nobody bothered me. But then I had that guy that came up and fucking bum rushed me over there and did that video, whatever the heck his name, James Worley.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and that got out in Tampa. So they all shit came out, and I wound up getting trespassed from every park in Tampa. So that's what they trespassed me for. But now, being former law enforcement, let me explain this to you. July 27th, I was arrested by Tampa police on an outstanding warrant from Pinellas County for failing to appear on a driving without a license ticket. Okay. They picked me up. They brought me to the jail. They incarcerated me in Hillsborough County for 4 days. Then I was extradited to Pinellas. Spent 30-some days in Pinellas for that charge. While I was there,
for driving while licensed invalid.
Huh?
For your license?
Right.
Wow. All right.
Okay. Though that's the extent of my criminal record. That's the only thing I'm guilty of is driving without a license, and not driving while suspended or driving revoked. Driving without, not having a license, because I gave my license back 10 years ago, which took me out of your system. I am no longer Joseph John Malinowski in capital letters. I am now J. So when you come up to me and you ask me my name, I'm telling you J. That's why you forcibly asked me for ID, because now you want to know my government name. That's the name that you have control over. I am only the living representative of, it's associated with that name by birth certificate, which was given to my parents by the government when they registered me. Again, I didn't ask for any of it.
Did you ever get your boat back?
No.
No, thank you for getting.
They impounded the boat. Now, what I just said to you about being arrested in July is the point that I was trying to make, and I got a little carried away. I apologize.
That's all right.
But they arrest me July 27th. I don't get out of jail until sometime in September, between Sarasota jail, because I had to go to Sarasota because I missed my court date in Sarasota because I was locked up in Pinellas. When I finally got out, that's when things really started getting crazy. But the boat, they towed the boat, and then they used a crane to lift it out of the water, apparently. And they towed it to the police impound lot, and they dropped it on the concrete. And they make sure to tell me that they dropped it on the concrete, When they told me what they did, they made sure they told me that, so that to plant the seed that the boat is damaged. But the boat's probably still in the water somewhere.
Now,
And they gave
why couldn't you get it back?
now this is another thing. Why can't I get it back? Because it's $8,000.
Mm. And see,
Okay.
that was the point I was making. Like, goodness gracious, man.
And
There,
no,
uh,
and the thing is this: they took the boat away from me, is what they basically did, because they know the boat's not legally in your system as my boat. But the law states that possession is 9/10 of the law. So if I'm in possession of the item and the title for the vehicle, and the title is signed by the owner, the original owner, and the new owner is the one in possession of the boat. But because it's not legal, that's why I was in jail in Sarasota for 5 days, because I didn't title my vessel within 30 days of purchase. I had to spend 5 days in county jail for that.
and let me make this point, Joe, because you know I I've always said, and if you go back and listen to a lot of my podcasts, this is what the philosophy that I've always had, and it didn't. Sometimes it didn't serve me well when I was a cop, but there's a lot of laws on the books, right? And there's a lot of things that law enforcement can do, and I've always said, just because you can, right, doesn't
Uh-huh.
necessarily mean that you should.
Right.
And so with your situation, and it just
Cops-
seemed like they were just kind of
No,
uh,
the police didn't have any say in it. The arresting officer didn't have any say in it. It was all done from higher up.
mhm.
Okay, and to be 100% honest with you, I don't even know how high up above the mayor it went. But I know I could park the buck with the mayor. When the mayor made that statement that if you live in zones A and B, or A or B, and you stay behind, you're gonna die. That was her statement. That's what she made on the TV. Okay, she said that. And here I am staying on my boat. Then she made another statement because of the report that I told the cops that I would leave. Went back on the news again and said that if we can get Lieutenant Dan to stay in a shelter, we can get anybody to go. Meanwhile, another TV station was interviewing me on the boat, asking me if I was going to a shelter, and I said, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. So that just brought the mayor's lie to the surface. So the mayor went, and the police chief was there too. And he was the one that gave me shit, telling me to go. People were worried about what the hell I do. Why do you care about me? God's got my back. I've been saying that for years. You can't do nothing to me. And not you, but them. And I
Right.
just get riled up. I apologize, Dustin.
No, hey man, that you're what I like about you is you are you. You're authentic. And I knew just from watching you on the internet, I knew you would be, and I appreciate that about you, being authentic, being yourself. And so don't apologize for that. That's all crazy, man. I know just in the last few months your life has just changed drastically. Before I ask you what your future plans are, I want to kind of segue into um the criminal justice system. And we kind of talked about it obviously with your arrest recently, but um I mean, overall, your experience with and I always tell people, obviously, we got to have cops, we got to have rule of law, and 'cause
No,
it'd
we
be
don't.
utter chaos without them. But
No, no,
my
no.
my point
That's a
is
misconception. That's a misconception. That's a total misconception that will be chaos without law and order. Okay? That's what they've drummed into your head since you were born. Because normal people don't want to hurt nobody else. And if we all live together in unity, we're not going to hurt each other. And that's the true crime. Okay? Do unto your brothers as you want done unto you. I lived that way my whole life since I was a kid. That was drummed into my head.
everybody's not normal though. There's crazy people out there,
Yeah,
man.
but that's why you have people like me. It's funny. You know why I agreed to do your show? Because the name, Failing Justice. And when I dropped my name from Joseph to Jay, and people would ask me, what's the J for? I would tell them, because there's no justice in this world. I'm the only justice. Bro, when I'm telling you, the battery on a law enforcement officer, the cop, I never even seen him. He hit me from behind and knocked me off the chair, and I had a concussion. Beat the shit out of me, and I got charged with battery on a law enforcement officer. Went to prison on that charge. I went to charge for criminal attempted bank robbery in Colorado, where I sat for a year in county jail. Why? Because after walking into my bank 5 times in Colorado, getting robbed, reporting my debit card stolen, them taking it all, getting me my money back, them not releasing any money to me because I didn't have ID, although I answer all their questions correctly. And because I went and made excited utterance, because first time I had ever been homeless, where I was on the street. I was in Colorado Springs for a month on the street because when I got there in June, or late June, early July, I got robbed on July 4th. And
what year was this?
This was about 5-6 years ago. This is where I was in Colorado. I went to Colorado on a job interview for a retired cop from New York City that was starting a medical marijuana grow in Colorado. She was buying a house in Denver, but she needed a grower. And that's what I did. I grew. So I drove out there to meet her. When I went out there, I was on probation in North Carolina. I told my probation officer about taking this job and if we could interstate compact my probation out there. And he said, Joe, you're so low level, it'd be easier just to vacate your sentence than to transport it. Send it over. Meanwhile, I went to Colorado. I got robbed. I go to my bank. I tell them. They say you get your money back in 10 days. You're FDIC insured. Okay. I come back in 10 days. They tell me they won't give me no money because I have no ID. I leave the bank. A couple days later, I go back and I talk to the bank manager. Tell him the story. He gives me $50 out of my account. I'm in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I live in North Carolina with my mother. I don't even know my mother's phone number. I have no way to get home. $50 is not going to do anything for me. Today, I understand the reason behind it. Because if you live in, like right now, I'm in Fort Lauderdale. Say I live in Fort Lauderdale and I lose my wallet. I can go to my bank. They'll give me $50. I can go to DMV, get a copy of my license. I can go back to the bank and get the rest of my money or whatever I need to do. But when you're an out-of-state resident and you're in a state far from home and you get handed $50, you can't get home on $50 when a cheeseburger costs you $22. So that money went. Now, July 25th of that year, it was my birthday. Well, July 25th is my birthday. I said to myself, I came up with the idea of trying to write a withdrawal slip out and just slip it to the bank teller and see if the bank teller will let it slide without ID. Since I've been in here 4 times already, everybody in the bank knows who I am and believes who I am, but won't give me no money because I don't have an ID to meet their criteria. So I go into the bank and I'm looking. Now, mind you, when I walked into the bank, I had no shirt on. I was wearing a pair of shorts and I had a Chicago Bulls hat on. I had a prosthetic at the time so I could walk. And I walk into the bank and I walk up to the desk. And all the slips there are deposit slips. They have no withdrawal slips. So I take a deposit slip and I cross out deposit and I write in withdrawal. And I fill this slip out with all of my information, my name, my address, my telephone number, my date of birth, my social security number, everything I could think of I'm putting on this thing. I wanted $1,300. I put $1,300 down. I go up to the teller and I slip it to her. And she picks it up. She goes, oh, you want a withdrawal? You got to fill out one of these. Now she gives me another form. I take that form and I'm looking at it. It's got all the same information that was on the first one that I just wrote. I got to write it all over again. So I'm filling it all out. I got my name, my address, the amount of money. And I see it. ID required. And I snapped. And I crossed out ID required. I wrote no ID. This is a robbery. And I threw it at her. And she picked it up and she looked at it and she said, I'll go get your special money. I said, yeah, you do that. And I sat down on the floor. She walked about 8 feet away and I stood up and I walked out of the bank. Walked right out of the bank. And as soon as I walked out the front door, right there at the red light is an El Paso County sheriff. And what do? I run up to the sheriff and I knock on his window. And I say, how do I get my ID in your state when I'm not from here? I'm from North Carolina. My bank will give me no money. And I'm telling this sheriff's officer my problem. And while I'm talking to him, Colorado Springs local police come crashing down on me like an avalanche with AR-15s and shotguns. And I get an AR-15 pointed at my head.
Wow.
And I get arrested for criminal attempted bank robbery. Now, I sat in county jail for a year on that charge and was taken to trial and had my public pretender named Jennifer Chew, Chew.
I like that, pretender.
Yeah. She gets me a hung jury. Hung jury. Right? So what's the DA do? They retry. So now I got to sit even longer. Now, I had my lawyer never did this, but my mother did. She got a bank statement from my bank, which my bank was Wells Fargo. And that's the bank that I was accused of trying to rob. To show a bank statement that on July 25th, I had an account in my name that had $2,000 in it. And how much was I trying to withdraw? $1,300. I had more than enough to cover my withdrawal. The only thing I was lacking was proof to show who I am. But now once I am arrested and fingerprinted and the police know who I am, why was the charge not dropped when I have an account at the bank with money in it? What am I trying to rob? Who am I trying to rob? Myself? Is that the thing? But they needed a conviction. They couldn't allow me to be vindicated because if they did, I could have sued them for millions of dollars for false arrest and kidnapping. So they got me convicted on criminal attempted robbery of my own check.
So you were convicted when they retried it?
Yeah. The second trial, I got convicted. And the judge, and you could all look this up on court records. Okay, look up, do your due diligence. The court records under my name, Joseph Malinowski, in El Paso County, Colorado. At my sentencing, the judge referred to me as Joshua Malinowski and sentenced me to 2 years of unsupervised probation and 20 hours of community service. And then I was extradited back to North Carolina because while I was in Colorado, my probation officer retired, and the one that took over his job absconded me because he wasn't aware that I had gone to Colorado for the job interview when I got arrested for trying to rob my checking account.
Wow, that's a crazy story. For somebody, when you think of bank robbery, you think federal charge, but two, you think, okay, you get a lot of time for that. So it's to me, it's almost like they knew, like, okay, this is kind of, on your account sounds like chicken shit, right? And they knew that, and then they give you supervised release, they give you probation for a bank robbery. That's
unsupervised.
Unsupervised. Yeah, that's crazy, man.
And now I have a warrant in Colorado for not doing my 20 hours of community service. But Colorado doesn't want to extradite me for 20 hours of community service. So they won't come and get me. So every time I get stopped by the cops, they call that in and they got to be told, no, we don't want them, let them go. And they release me. But that's the thing. They knew I wasn't trying to rob anybody. It was an excited utterance, which is a vindicatable statement used in court. Okay. I was under duress. If my lawyer was anything but a pretender, she could have explained how I had been on the street in Colorado Springs for a month now, eating out of garbage cans, not able to get home. I have a home in North Carolina. I have no transportation to get there. I can't get home. I have no ID to get on a plane. I have no money to get anywhere. And my money is in the bank now because when I got robbed, they stole my debit card and they charged and they drained all the money out of my account. That's what the bank told me on July 5th because they robbed me on July 4th. And on July 5th, I went to the bank. They reported it stolen. They said that they would get my money back, but it would take 10 days, FDIC insured. So I had to wait now to the 15th. So again, I was in Colorado Springs, and if you know anything about Colorado Springs, there's a place called Acacia Park. I stayed in Acacia Park the entire time I was in Colorado, other than in jail, because that's the only thing I knew, and I could walk to the bank. The bank was 4 blocks away. So, I mean, all they had to do was bring up the facts how I got robbed. I came to the bank on July 5th and reported my debit card stolen. They got my money back. I've been back to the bank numerous times to try to take money out, but they wouldn't give me any because I didn't have an ID to prove who I was. Although I answer all your security questions correctly because I created them. I can prove it's my account by my responses. You believe me, the bank manager believed me. You give me $50.
So
now,
let me ask you this.
Wait a minute. I give you a slip. I give you a deposit slip that doesn't mention anything about a robbery. A deposit slip. You turn around. And I'm saying the bank teller, turns around and hands me another piece of paper that I knew nothing about. I am not clairvoyant. I did not know you were going to give me this piece of paper. And on this piece of paper, you are now calling a note because I wrote this is a robbery on it. But I never knew I was going to get that paper. So how can you prove intent? When you have to prove a crime, you have to prove intent of the crime. There's no intent. If I didn't,
did you have a weapon on you during that time?
Huh?
You didn't have a weapon on you, right?
No, I had no shirt on.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Because.
And then on top of it, I walked away. I walked out of the bank without a nickel. She never came back. She walked away. I got up and walked out. I never waited for her to come back and say anything or hand me anything. So how could I be convicted? How come I spent a year, 1 whole year in El Paso County Jail of my life? I had to sit in court, I sit in jail, and then get convicted, and then get extradited from Colorado back to North Carolina. And now because of what you did, I violated my probation in North Carolina. I got to go to prison in North Carolina for 3 months to handle my probation that I missed. So I went to prison for 3 months in North Carolina, finished that shit out. And when I got out, I lived with my mother for 2 days. My son-in-law brought my grandson over to the house. I know my son-in-law don't like me. So I went in the bedroom. My grandson came in and went and picked up a pillow, came over, picked up my stump and put the pillow under my leg. I used to live like that when I first had this accident 40 years ago. He never knew that. He would have never known it. How did this kid know to do that? But while he was in there playing with me, his father was out there telling my mother that if I'm living in the house, he's not bringing my grandson over anymore. So the next morning, my mother wakes me up and says, pack your shit. You got to go. So my mother I was 3 days out of prison, gone for over a year. Between Colorado, a year in Colorado, 3 months in North Carolina in prison, 15 months I've been locked up. I get out of prison and 3 months later, you throw me out. Drop me off in Raleigh, North Carolina. No money, no nothing.
Where'd you go?
What did I do? Stood on my faith and did what God told me to do. Tampa, Florida. That was 6 years ago now. I left North Carolina. I came to Florida. I came to Fort Lauderdale and I got stuck here. I love Fort Lauderdale. I love the beach. I'm here at the beach now. I live here. And I don't even go in the water. I just love the view.
So tell me, how'd you lose your leg?
I lost my leg in a scooter accident when I was 16 years old. I ran into the back of a car, smashed my tib and fib, had a compound tib and fib fracture, fractured the femur, severed the femoral artery, had no blood going below the knee. I could tell you that story, but that would go into detail. And then I had the leg in. They tried to save it for 2 years. It should have came off from the beginning, but nobody would sign the form that can cut it off. So when I was 18, I went to Mount Sinai in New York and saw the chief orthopedic surgeon of Mount Sinai. He looked at my leg and said, "You're never going to fucking walk on this." And I looked at him. I said, "What am I supposed to do?" He says, "Your best bet's to amputate." I said, "When you want to do it?" That was the first consent form I ever had to sign, was to cut my leg off. You know, and there's a I make that statement. I say that, and then that falls into this thing where I say that, soldier, you sold your soul. Because I believe that everything we do on earth has a consequence, and we're in learning. We're in school. But if you're willing to put anything in front of God, you're not worthy. And if you're military, or you put, what somebody else is going to tell you what's right or wrong to do, and you're not going to listen to what God says, and God says, love your brother, thou shalt not kill, and then you do it, I don't know.
Do you think your time being in, the criminal legal system, during with that experience, what would you say are some things could that need to be changed? I mean, I'm sure obviously you have a lot, but
I'm old school. And when I was growing up, we were scared of the police because we respected you, and we were always afraid to do anything wrong to get your attention. Now, the problem being with that is that I believe the system saw it and started making everything illegal because everything is for profit. You have a legal system that's for profit. You have the entire legal system is based on maritime law. What America doesn't even realize is that we are still a subsidiary of England. We're a corporation. And then people don't understand what that means, because they just say, yeah, we know that. It's incorporated. But they don't know what that represents. By you having a driver's license, now you are accepting. Well, actually, it starts with your birth certificate. With your birth certificate, you're signing yourself over to the government. And that's the part that's wrong. You're putting government over God. Even your license plate say, "In God we trust," but you don't trust God. That's what the mayor got fucked up on. When the mayor said that if you don't leave, you're going to die, and here I stayed and I didn't die, that proved that there's a God. He wouldn't let anything happen to me because this is what he wanted me to do. But I wouldn't listen. I didn't show fear to the system and believe all that propaganda that the storm was going to be so bad. And even if it was, whatever happened is meant to happen. I would be here in my boat whether you were here or not, whether I knew the storm was coming or not. I don't have TV. I don't watch the news. I didn't know how popular and how big this got until days after Milton. I didn't know I went viral. I knew these people were interviewing me, like the news reporters and the guy from the Weather Channel and shit like that. But I didn't think nothing about it. I thought it was more for like background music, background noise that they were going to use it for. I didn't know that I was the center of attention. I didn't know how big that got. And then when I did what I did, and like I said, I did what God told me to do. And that pissed everybody off. That really did. That pissed. That threw a major monkey wrench into the system of things that we live in. Because you're meant to live in fear. They want you to live in fear. They want you to have fear so that you can depend on them to make you safe. And then once you do that, you have somebody in control of you. And that's when you're giving up your freedom. And that's what I am the biggest, I'm the noisy clog in the wheel or whatever. Because I don't let nobody tell me what to do. You tell me something, if it resonates, if I feel in my heart that it's what to do, then I do it. If not, I tell you I'm not going to do it. And I don't listen to something my mother taught me very young. Don't listen to nothing what you hear and only half of what you see. And that is so true today. That is so true today. Because I see posts on the internet of pictures of me that are reversed aged by like 20 years. And they're coming out as me, but they look a hell of a lot better than I do.
So are you happy with the way things have played out as of recent? I mean, kind of where you sit now, versus where you were before all
have,
this stuff happened with the hurricane.
the only my life has been a roller coaster since I left the family. When I say left the family, I was in a loveless marriage for 25 years that I stayed into because I had kids. And it was my responsibility to take care of them and to make sure that they were fed and they had a roof over their head. And that's what I did. My kids were fed. They were well taken care of. They may not have had everything. I never raised a hand to my kids. I never spanked one of my kids, either one of them. Never had to. If they were doing something I didn't like, I just have to call them by their name and give them a look, and they stopped. But now, like I said, as far as that goes, I'm dead to them, and that part of my life is over. I've been reborn again.
Do you think you'll ever rekindle those things with your
No.
with your family? No.
No, I have no interest to. Too much time has passed.
Do they have interest, or is it just you?
I have no idea. I doubt it. I mean, why would you now when you did a month and a half ago?
Yeah.
Okay. For 10 years, I've been out on the street. Well, for the last 5, I've been homeless in Fort Lauderdale. Okay. All I know, see, time has been lost to me. I really don't know years anymore because I spent so much time in county jail that I've lost years that I just don't know anymore. But as long as I've been in Florida, I've been on the street. When I first came to Florida, whenever it was, and I got off the Greyhound bus. I had a prosthetic. I put it with my luggage under the bus, and I hopped up onto the bus because I didn't want to wear the leg for the whole 17 hours. When we got to Fort Lauderdale and I got my bag, my leg was gone. So I haven't had a leg since then. I've had a prosthetic since I cut my leg off when I was 18 up until that point. I've always had a leg. I could run, I could walk, I could do great things. Since I came here, I haven't had health insurance, and I don't have medical, not medical, but it's the pharmaceutical that covers it. Part D covers the leg. I don't have that insurance. Anyway.
What's your well, this is probably a 2 questions, I guess. One, what do you think your purpose is moving, like, from this point on moving forward, with everything you've been through, everything you know, everything as of recent? What do you think your purpose is? I guess I'll let you answer that, and then I'll ask my next question.
You know, I pondered that question a lot, and I think most people do.
Mhm.
There's actually a book called What's My Purpose? And I read it in jail. And what I've learned, no matter what I do, it's what God wants me to do. So that's my purpose. My purpose is to be me and to lead by example. Because with all the trash talk that people say about me, but if you actually follow me and get to know me, I mean, I'll agree with you 100%. I'm nuttier than a batshit loon. Okay? I am. But at the same time, I have a heart of gold that I will die for you. Okay? Killing is not in my vocabulary. Dying is. I have no problem with dying. Living is the hard part. And I often ask God, why do I have to suffer? He says, because this is your test. I throw roadblocks up at you to make you. God, I've said this for years. When he first woke me up, I started talking like this then. That God looks for a person's character, because a character is something that's built. You're not born, you're born with a certain innate character, but that has to be fed and molded and shaped to be what you want. And that's why God has put me through so much. And the weird thing is that my mother she was going to school to become a paralegal. So I'm not naive to the law. And I've been around enough and I've seen enough to know how it works and how corrupt the system is. Do you know the day before they locked me up, I had 4 officers, and I don't know what they are because they had stripes on their arms. But 3 pull up in regular white cop cars, and 1 pulled up in the black undercover car. And they walked up, and I looked at them. I said, "Am I in trouble?" And they said, "No, we're just here to check on you, make sure you're okay." And they wanted to take selfies with me. They wanted my picture. They said, "You made it. We wanted to check on you, and we wanted to shake your hand." And they handed me a round pendant, and I just took it, and it was in a little plastic case. I didn't know what it was. I just saw the back of it. It had some flags on the back, so I was like, "Oh, thanks." And I said to the cop, now this is how old I am. I said, "What? You don't have any PBA cards?" Up in Jersey, police were giving PBA cards that you'd give to your friends. So if they got pulled over, they can give it to them and get out of the ticket. So
I don't think that's a thing in the South.
No. Well, the cop that I talked to knew what I meant.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned around and he looked at me. He goes, "That's your PBA card." I didn't know what he meant by that. Days later, well, before I got, no, actually it was after I got arrested and got out. I took that coin and I looked at it. I took it out of the wrapper and looked at the back. And it said loyalty, honor, and respect. And that hit me. That hit me. Because that's all I'm about is loyalty, honor, and respect. I don't do anything to anybody. I stay out of everybody's way. I ask the same of you.
Sounds like everybody kind of invaded your life.
Yeah.
As of recently. I mean, I was wondering, there for a while following you, I was like, man, I wonder if this guy gets tired of all this people coming up to his boat and, I mean, you have everybody knows who you are. I mean, unless they live under a rock. I mean, you can probably walk the street right now and get stopped 10 times in a mile, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And
I
so
do.
I wondered if, how you felt about that at this point, if you enjoy it or you get tired of it.
No, I'm going to put it out there like this. A lot of people hold back and show me respect. You can tell by the look in their face they recognize and they want to come up and say something, but they don't want to bother me. And then you get people that come up and ask you for a selfie. And I'm not bothered by either one.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with people coming up to me and wanting to talk. I love to talk to people. I'm a lonely man. Okay. I'm alone. I'm by myself. For the last 10 years, I've had nobody to talk to because for 10 years, nobody gave a shit about me. But now that I lived through 2 hurricanes and everybody knows me, I've been on TV and I'm around, it's not like Tom Cruise, so you can walk up to him on the corner. Oh shit, that's my lawyer. My lawyer's contacting me now. That's another thing. I got a question. You know what? I'm gonna put it out there because I really don't even give a fuck. But you were an officer for 15 years, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
You make any arrests?
Yeah, plenty.
Okay. When you brought him to the county jail, what happened? When you bring an arrestee to the jail, what's the process for you?
For me, in my experience, is you bring them in. Of course, you got your booking paperwork. You got to ask questions, fill things out, and then typically the jailers would take over. Search you, get all your property, and my paperwork was pretty minimal in as far as the booking goes. That was pretty quick depending on what jail you were at, but it was pretty minimal. And then you left, and typically you would send them over, whatever the charge was. You'd have to write a probable cause affidavit, and then
now
send
where
that
would
over.
where would the inmate be during all this? Or I say inmate, arrestee, whatever.
Well, it just, like I say, it depends on the jail. I would say my biggest experience in a particular county jail would be it was just kind of like a octagon bookend desk, and they would be standing on the other side once I was done with my questions and for my booking, my agency paperwork. then the jailers would, take over, dress the inmate out, start asking them their own medical questions and things like that.
Right.
So.
Okay. Let me ask you this now. Once the arrestee is handed over and becomes an inmate and is in processing and turns over all his property, and now he's in processing, because as far as I know, you could only go up to the Sally port when you hand over the arrestee to the jail. You can't go into inmate processing. Am I correct?
No, in my particular, it all depends on the jail, right? But in the one I did, it was kind of a more smaller county, I guess, and we were able to go in processing. But I know some that there are barriers and things. So.
Well, okay, I'm going to put it to you like, and I apologize for fishing. I was fishing.
No, it's all right.
But I left my bait at home. When I got arrested, they said the arresting officer told me I was being arrested on an old warrant. And I was given the ticket for trespassing. When I got to the jail, I was turned over to the jail. I was sent in. The cop left. I'm in processing. I went through medical. I went through the first thing. Then I went through medical, and then I went to property. When I turned around and I walked away from property, a man came up to me, and I thought he was an inmate, and he said, "I'll represent you. Here's my card." And I looked at his card, and he's an attorney, and on the back of his card, he says, "I'll represent you pro bono," which sounds fabulous, right?
Yeah.
Okay, a lawyer willing to take your case for nothing. My problem is this. I asked the question to the monkey in the room. What the fuck are you doing in here? Excuse my French. You are not, as an attorney, not allowed in processing among inmates to walk around freely. I am aware of, I've been arrested enough times and gone through the system enough to know that in processing, there is never a civilian in processing that can walk up to you and hand you a card and shake your hand in processing. Okay.
Yeah, typically not, for sure.
So what the hell are you doing there? And then once I accepted him and he takes me on as a client, the 2 warrant charges are dismissed. As soon as he took the case, they got dismissed. The charges that they arrested me on got dismissed. They dropped them. So why the fuck did you arrest me then if you're going to drop them as soon as I got out, as soon as I got here? Because they wanted me off the boat to impound my boat. That was the only.
Yeah, I would agree with that, just based off of what you're saying and kind of how, just what I know of the situation from afar, and then now hearing what you're saying. I mean, it does sound like they wanted you out of that area. They wanted to impound your boat. They knew you probably wouldn't be able to get it back. And I mean, it's a sad deal. That's what's wrong. That's what's wrong with the system is.
Okay. All right. Now, Justice. Okay. What are we going to do about it? Are we just going to sit back and say, well, that's the system, we got to accept it?
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And that's kind of why you'd be, or maybe you wouldn't be surprised, I don't know, by starting this organization that I started, man, I lost a lot of friends that were cops, or what I thought were friends. Obviously in the end they weren't, but a lot of people that have been, so many people are indoctrinated by the system. Or either they're indoctrinated or they don't know enough about it. Right. And so that's why I started this organization, man, is to, number one, have the conversations, but number two, kind of put boots on the ground, bring people to the table, talk about, hey, what we need to change, implement, policies, legislations. But it's like climbing Mount Everest, man, because nobody wants to change it,
Listen, like God said, with the faith of a mustard seed, you can make that mountain move. Okay. And what I'm going to tell you to solve your problem, I could, the first way, the best way to solve the problem is the only way to do it, and nobody will do it. Jesus said it. Render under Caesar what is Caesar's, render under God what is God's. Give all the money back to the government, tell them you can keep it, and I'm going to live on love. And when you live on love and you become part of the team, part of the unity, part of the group, part of the one that we all are of, and we come together. When I have extra and you need something, I help you. When I need a hand fixing myself, helping changing my tire, and I got one arm, you come over and help me. We work for each other, and we don't do it like I do this for you, you do that for me. It's not a barter system. Love is not bartering. Barter is doing love. You're doing it out of
they're not coming for you, are they, Joe?
Huh?
I said they're not coming for you, are they?
They're coming for me. They're coming for me. They're bringing out the big guns now. I'm right across the street from the fire department.
Oh, I got you.
But that's really, if you wanted to get away from all of the problems that we have in the world today, you got to do away with money. You got to do away with finances. Everything is, the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. Well, you don't have to love it. You don't. Because we see that today. Because they made money a necessity. To live, you need money. And if you have no way to get it, you got to do what you can to get it.
Yeah.
Because out of the outpouring of cries that I got going through I'm going to come out right now and I'm going to tell you this. You remember the video that they had that they used on the news of my boat in the beginning, and then there was like a middle part at night, and then there was a daytime picture at the end, and the middle part was during the storm when the boat was banging, flying all over the place?
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
You remember that? That wasn't my boat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's not my boat. That was not my boat. If you took that whole section out and just had the daylight to the daylight, that's what I went through. Nothing. My boat barely shook. I bounced into the side wall because of the way the wind was blowing. So when Milton happened, nothing happened. But the news media made it sound like a big freaking rigmarole. And I needed to get a bigger boat because I got a little boat. And then people felt sorry for me. I mean, it wasn't like it was a picnic. I mean, it was hard. I mean, it was a pain in the ass. It was stressful. I didn't know what to expect. But after looking back at it, hindsight 2020, and I saw what they did. And that's what proved to me what my mother told me years ago about the news. If it bleeds, it leads. So if they would have just put the truth up there as to the storm didn't even come anywhere near me. And the truth of the matter was that a block and a half away, a big crane fell off a building and hit the building and took down part of the building a block and a half away in Tampa. But where I was totally calm. Why? Because God made sure of it.
That's that's interesting. That's interesting take, and I think sounds like you have a strong faith, and I think that's good compared to where you say you were years ago. And
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but people say I have a strong faith. They see me and they see that I have tattoos, right? They see I'm covered in tattoos. But did anybody ever stop to sit and look and read them? See what the hell they say? Like this one that says only God can judge me, or this across my chest that says faith, hope, love, and patience, or over my heart right here where I have apostle for the new millennium, where you have your badge, I have call me apostle, and God put that on my heart. I didn't do it. I got Mark 10:21 across my shoulders. And if you look that up in the Bible, Mark 10:21 is the story where Jesus was talking to a nobleman, a guy with money. And the nobleman said to Jesus, what do I got to do to get into heaven? And Jesus said, well, follow my Father's 10 commandments. And he says, I've been doing that since I was young. I can do that. What else? And Jesus combined the 10 down to 2. He says, love God with your heart, mind, body, and soul. Your everything. Love God. And love your brother as you love yourself. Combine those 10 commandments into 2. He says, I could do that. What else? And 10:21, Jesus says, now go and sell all your belongings. Give the money to the poor. And then come follow me. And the nobleman dropped his head and walked away. And the disciples are sitting there and they looked at Jesus and said, Jay, what the hell was that all about? You just told him how to get into heaven. Now he's walking away like that. And that's when Jesus says, it's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter into heaven. And again, people think eye of a needle. Well, the eye of a needle was a doorway, like Jericho had a wall around the city. All the cities had walls around them. They had big gates in the front. During the gate day, the gates were open. But at night, they closed the gates, and there was a doorway, a small doorway. That was called the eye of the needle. If you were coming into the city with your camel, you'd have to take everything off the camel, unload the camel, bring that stuff in through the doorway, put it down, go out, get the camel, bring the camel in. He'd have to get down on his elbows to walk through, and then you could load him back up. But a rich man walking up to the doorway carrying his riches, he can't fit through the door. He's not going to put them down to walk through.
Yeah.
And that goes to 99.9% of the population, including yourself, Justin. Because everybody's got to do what they got to do for money because you got to live. So you're being forced into that.
Yeah, everything revolves around money. I mean,
exactly.
Everything.
Exactly. And until we come to an agreement, you know, our national anthem, or Pledge of Allegiance, not national anthem, Pledge of Allegiance, that we used to say in school. You know the part where it says one nation under God?
Mm-hmm.
I always wondered why it never said one world under God, since we give him credit for making it. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
just because North Korea is over there and he's short and fat and got slanty eyes, he's not my enemy. He's just a brother I haven't met yet.
I think a lot of people are probably just misunderstood, man.
And like, I mean, I know lately I've done some really off the wall kind of shit because I'm going through a midlife crisis my damn self. I'm 54 years old and I've had nothing my entire life. My whole life, when I was married with kids, my whole life was worried about them. Money, 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 money. Got to be able to pay the bills. Got to pay the bills. Got to pay the bills. And that's why when I died, I went to Tartarus. Because I believe I am a fallen angel. And that's where I would have wound up.
Let me ask you, Joe, what's next for Joe? Like, do you have any plans? Are you going with the flow? Are you able to talk about it? I mean, what's next for you?
Listen, I've been told by some individuals that I should really clam up, go back into hermit mode, and disappear. But that's not me. That's not me. I never I was in hermit mode just because I was in hermit mode, but I'd never hide from anybody. Now people are telling me that I should hide because I have influential people that are not for me. Because of what I represent and who I stand for. And that's fine. I'll tell you where I'm going to be. I'm in Fort Lauderdale today, in South Beach over here, Fort Lauderdale. My plan is that I got to get an ID so I can get the money out of PayPal because all the money is still. I have money in PayPal, I have money in Cash App, and I have money in my checking account, and I can't touch any of them because I don't have an ID.
What do you got to do to get an ID?
I got to get my birth certificate from New Jersey.
Mm.
I looked up online. There was a place called Vital Statistics, and I filled out all the information, went through it. It was $175 to have it overnighted. I went to the store. I got a prepaid Visa card for that, and I got through it. And then it tells me that I got to have an ID. you need an ID to order the birth certificate. They got to take a picture of the front and back of the ID. So what I have to do, since I can't do it myself, I have to find somebody with an ID willing to do it for me. And then me give them the money. And then when they get the ID, give it to me. Or get the birth certificate, give it to me. Then I can go and get my passport. And then once I get my passport, I'm a sovereign citizen. And then I'm going to do what everybody else, well, not everybody, but a few friends of mine, they're collecting passports. Literally. They're going to foreign countries, creating residencies in those countries, and getting passports. I just want to get a boat that I could do it on, and I need the money to do that. I want to get a bigger boat so I can sail around. God put that on my heart, Tampa, Florida, and get a boat. I never thought about a boat until I came to Tampa and got a boat. The 5 years that I've been living here, I've been on and off, living on and off boats for 5 years. I've had 3 of them. That was my 4th.
Wow.
Yeah. So now when I get the money, I can get what I really want, which is not what I really want, but what would be nice is a 35-foot mono hull. And it'll probably cost me about $10,000-15,000. I can get something really nice with a good working, reliable motor, new sails. And then I'm going to take little trips, go out to the Bahamas, teach myself how to sail, and then,
Well, that sounds awesome, man. And sounds like just kind of over the years you've grown, and I appreciate, like I said earlier, I appreciate your authenticity, and I don't know if you've to date, I'm not sure if you've done a long form podcast where you've told your story like this or not.
this is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
And I want to say, I've enjoyed hearing your story. I'm glad that I know you better. I don't know you, but I know you better than I did. And being able to hear it from you versus the, 15,000 different things you see on the internet. And maybe, somebody can listen to this and get some perspective on you and your experiences in life. Your experience in the criminal justice system, and maybe they can sense your authenticity as well. And that's what I appreciate about you. And
Thank you.
real quick though, before I let you go, if somebody, I know you do like Cameo and stuff, can you talk about how people get a hold of you if they want to do Cameo? Like, do you have a way
Yes.
for people to reach you?
I am on Cameo, and TikTok's probably not the best way to get a hold of me because it goes in that other freaking folder I can never find. But
I know.
I find messages that I get from people that were like 2 months old. I'm finding them now. But the best way to get a hold of me is probably through Facebook Messenger. And my Facebook name is Jay space SEA, like the ocean, JC. And my Instagram is Malin, MALINJJ69. That's my Instagram. I'm not giving my phone number out no more.
I wouldn't do that for sure.
No.
You'd be blowing up, man.
See, that's how naive I am to the way the social. See, it's people use the wrong terminology around me. See, people call the internet social media now. Me, I call the internet the backbone, how everything works, and then social media is just a game.
Yeah.
And it's the social media part that I'm not familiar with because I am not a drama queen or a drama person. I don't like drama. I don't want drama in my life. I like peace, quiet, It's funny though, because, this whole thing, the way it blew up is crazy. And the people that call me, they call me and they act like they know me, and you don't know, but they think they know me because they've seen so much of me on TikTok.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of how I felt I was like, man, I feel like really connected to this guy. So it's really cool, to be able to talk to you and hear your story.
Yeah. And I don't mind, but I have at times been in a bad mood prior to somebody reaching out to me, and I snap on them. But I look that out now, that I apologize for any kind of future biting you might get. But I really don't mind when people come up to me and ask for selfies or, whatever. It makes me happy to see them happy, if you can relate.
Yeah, absolutely. No.
When they see me, to me, it's like I get the Tom Cruise feeling. I feel like Tom Cruise. I'm like,
Well, no, man, that's awesome, and
fuck Tom Cruise. I'm more of a what's his name? What the hell was his name? Oh, Keanu Reeves. I'm more like Keanu. I'm just low key. I like to just do me.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming on the show, and
for having me. And if you ever want me back, I'd be willing to come back.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Maybe we can do some more segments and stuff. And I like I told you earlier, I just thank you for taking the time to come out and tell your story like this, without interruption. And just long form podcast content. And I think people will probably, there's a lot of questions that people have like me, and they'll be able to listen to this and maybe get to know you a little more, like the real you.
That's what that's it. The best way to describe myself, and I got this from a TikTok tarot reader this morning, but I'm like a chameleon. I can change to fit my environment. So I might not do it well. Okay, like when I hang out with the kids nowadays, I don't know all their terminology and all their lingo.
I don't either.
But, I call him my manager, my buddy. He took me shopping the other day, and he bought me a whole bunch of clothes that I needed, and these sneakers. He bought me these Nike sneakers, and I liked them.
Oh yeah, look at that.
But the problem was that they were the only shoe that they had in the store my size, 9.5, and they're not bad, and they fit me. So I said, yeah. Some guy on TikTok made a video about me, and he brought them up, and they call them pandas. That's what the kids call these, pandas, because they're black and white, and girls like them. So the girls wear them, but I'm wearing it. So he was making a comment like that about it. So
that's a nice shoe, man.
Huh?
That's a nice shoe. I like it.
I like it too, but you know what? Now you're making me self-conscious. So now to alleviate that problem, because otherwise I'm going to walk around thinking I'm wearing this woman's shoe all the time, I'm going to go back to what I was doing before and walk around barefoot.
Well, hey, one thing you've probably figured out, man, and you seem like the guy that, I'll be honest, man, people are going to say things, you know this already, just in the last couple of months, man. People are going to say the craziest things, and
I tell you
gotta, dude, I got so much hate when I still get hate for this podcast. So, but I just kind of drown out the noise and keep my mission what it is.
That's it. That's what I'm doing. This is good. You giving me, and you can cut this part out, but you've given me the realest platform to be on so far.
Well, that means a lot, man. It really does. I hope, I knew you were, what attracts me with people is authenticity. And I've said that a couple times in our show here. Like, I can tell when somebody's authentic, even if it's, even if they're sharp around the edges, but I can tell when they're authentic. And that's why I wanted you here. That's why I wanted you to, talk about your life and the things that you've experienced. It's because I know you're an authentic person, and I hope that people see that in me as well. And so that's why I really appreciate that comment, is because that's what I try to be myself, is very authentic. I try to be real. And you said something earlier that really stood out about people on the internet being fake, and when the cameras come out, that's just kind of what society is right now, man. Everybody is, they want a camera, they want a microphone, and here I am. I mean, I got a camera and a microphone. I can't talk, but when I have one, I still try to be real and authentic and, not just uh, talking nonsense and for no reason. I try to bring solutions to problems, and
Right.
that's what I'm about personally, and that's what I try to bring to the Failing Justice platform. So I appreciate the hell out of that comment, man. It means a lot. I've really enjoyed this, and I hope you did, and I hope those that listen to this find the value, hear you for who you are, and like I said, man, thanks so much for taking the time to do this.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
It's not just an organization, it's a call to action. Join us on this journey, satisfaction. Dismantle barriers, build with passion. For a future where justice is not a fraction. Yeah, failing justice. Yeah.